but I still think O&R
Okay.
is still king to this day, and I still
Yeah.
think it remains probably the most trusted rinseless in the
Oh
market.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I say that word specifically because plenty of new rinselesses will come and go, right? And there'll be plenty of
Hmm.
them, but do people, truthfully, do they have that trust with that new rinseless that they have not yet to use, putting it on their paint and doing everything with it versus O&R? And the
Right.
Right.
trust factor is a massive thing, right? Because
Hmm.
once you go all in with a wash and a clay and everything like that, I mean, shoot, dude, you're doing every single abrasive technique that you can on that vehicle. You better hope that that new shiny rinseless wash you saw in a YouTube video is going to
Yeah.
be as good as they say it is, right?
Right.
And so that's where I think the trust factor with O&R will always be there.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Opti-Coat podcast, where we share stories from detailing professionals and highlight cutting edge products, techniques, and tools that'll help your detailing to accelerate into the future. Wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, please follow, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. I hope you enjoy the conversation. All right. Well, hey, another episode here of the Opti-Coat podcast, and we have a very, very special guest today. We get Anthony coming from the Rag Company. How you doing today, Anthony?
Good guys, I'm excited to be here. This is exciting. I'm looking forward to this. When I found out you guys had a podcast, I was like, I would like to be on that. And I heard Levi was on
Hmm.
it here recently, right, over the
Yep.
last
Yeah.
week. And
Last week.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I got to get on this. I got to hop on this train. So everything's going great. We are just chugging away here at the Rag Company, staying busy as usual. We're always staying busy, but we're always having fun at the same time, right? As it
Hmm.
shows. And so
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm excited to see what we're going to talk about today and just dive in.
Awesome. I always love to start by asking the guest to kind of share the story of how in the world did you get into what you're doing now? And I know that
Yeah,
you've obviously done a lot of things, and I think you have a really unique perspective on the industry and the market. So, how did you get to detailing, and how did you get to everything you're doing with the Rag Company?
totally. So, well, I've always been kind of obsessive about my cars. I've always been into washing my
Hmm.
cars. I mean, since I got my first car, right, at like 16, right, I
Yep.
was like, one of the things to do would be to wash it, right? Because that was a not just like a therapeutic thing, but it's kind of like it got me more in love with cars, right? Being able to be hands-on and while it's fun to work on things mechanically, right, I also like to make things pretty. So back when I was a teenager, man, I was pretty much just always washing my first car, practicing washing my parents' cars. And it was always funny because, I love washing my car, but then my family, my friends and my family, like, hey, do you want to wash my car since you're having so much fun? I go, oh, I
Nice.
like washing my car, right? I don't know if I necessarily like washing
Hmm.
your cars, right?
Yep.
Until they said, hey, we'll throw you some money, and I was just like, oh, okay, well that kind of changes
There
things,
we
right?
go.
And so but no, I always was pretty obsessed with hand washing. I mean, ever since I was a teenager, so that's like what over 20 years ago, right? And I did that for a number of years, just kind of just enjoy doing it, for myself. And then it was when I got my first kind of like nicer car, right? That was when I was like, okay, I've been doing it this method. I've been using a sponge, like literally, like a glorified dish sponge, right? Is my wash
Hmm.
media, and then my towels were just old beach towels, right? Things like that. And so, and I got my first nice car. I was like, okay, I really need to kind of go down the rabbit hole to figure out how to keep the paint as nice as I possibly can. And so, and I'd use like the baby diapers and I'd use stuff like that. But I was like, at this point in time, microfiber should be where it needs to be to where it's not like that nasty catching your hand full of polyester.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
sad excuse for a towel kind of thing. And on the
Right.
chamois, I was just, I was always, whatever about the chamois. And so that's when I actually started kind of going down the rabbit hole. I bought my first microfibers, which were, I think McGuire's was making those at the time. And so gotten into
Hmm.
waffle leaves and started doing that. And, I upped my game with my wash media, my, going to like a really nice, what's it called? A lamb's wool mid and going to really nicer
Hmm.
stuff. And, I would say it was at a certain point that I was kind of like, okay, I really like this. I really like the kind of going down and finding different products and different waxes and stuff like that, different hand waxes.
Yep.
And I remember at that time, so this would have been like 2012, I was really into the Meguiar's Tech Wax 2.0. It was like that purple bottle, right? It was like it
Yep.
was a polymer based wax. And so,
Yep.
and I loved that stuff and I was using it, pretty
Hmm.
frequently. And, my car really started looking good, right? And I was like, okay, this is making a massive difference compared to what I'd been doing prior. And so at that point, again, I was still kind of washing friends' cars. Friends were coming over. I was helping them show them two bucket wash methods, all sorts of different things that you would, eventually start diving into. And then it was probably right around that time, 2012, 2013, is when I actually picked up my first polisher, my first, real polisher, Porter Cable, 7424. And so that's when I kind of started diving into polishing, right? And started kind of understanding that because prior to that, in my teen years, I had I actually still have it at my parents' house. I was just there yesterday. The Black and Decker like vibrating orbital. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yep.
Yeah.
Big
you
steering wheel.
basically, yeah, it's like a big steering wheel. You
Yeah.
threw a bonnet over the top and you did that, and that's kind of
Yep.
what I had used previously. But like honestly, it just
Yeah.
shakes on the paint. It didn't really do a whole lot. And so it was so once I got the Porter cable, I was like, oh wow, like I can actually like I'm polishing things now, which is super cool. And
Hmm.
so and I kind of went through the motions that everybody does, right? It was kind of like, okay, what are my first compounds? McGuire's 105, 205, right? Learning about lake country pads, learning the difference between
Hmm.
microfiber and foam and all of that. And it was at that
Yeah.
time though too that my friend Brian Prescott, who was also an installer of Opti-Coat, right? So he had actually started going down through the Opti-Coat installer network. And so he had access to a bunch of really cool stuff. And that was when he introduced me to O&R. So O&R would have been probably like 2013, 2014 is when I
Okay.
first started doing my rinseless washes, right? And learning about O&R. And just like everybody else, I had my, you're kind of second guessing. You're like, I feel like I'm just
Yeah.
washing my
Right.
car with water, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're learning, right? And you're kind of like, I
Hmm.
don't know if I trust this, but like
Yep.
it seems like it's pretty safe. So I
Hmm.
remember my first couple of rinseless washes, I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. But that
Right.
was again, it was like 11 years ago, right? And so,
Hmm.
and then I started to get really addicted to it, and I started to really see the benefits of it because it was true that
Hmm.
my car, it just felt like I could stay up on it more. It felt like less of a process to break out the full bucket,
Right.
the full, wash media, the soap, and all that crap. And so that's when, I really, really started kind of doing a deeper dive. But
Hmm.
it was around 2012 though. Before that, so my dad owns a window cleaning business, right? And so,
Okay.
and I did window washing with him since I was a teenager, right? So that was kind of my
Hmm.
thing. Is that while I was, when I was a teenager, I had my, obviously my entry level jobs, and on the weekends I did window washing with him. And then it was right when I got my first kind of real job, right when I started working at bodybuilding.com, that was when because I kind of got through college doing window washing and other things too, but
Hmm.
it was right at that time where I started at bodybuilding. I was still window washing on the weekends. My dad could not accept the fact that I like literally started a career because he's like his dream was I was going to take over the window washing business.
Right.
And while I did enjoy it, it just wasn't 100% for me. So but what was funny is that our neighbor had actually told us about the rag company and said, hey, you should pick up your window cleaning towels from the rag company. Well, that was the kind of the first entry into learning about the rag company, but also trying
Okay.
out like glass towels, right? So they had a green glass
Oh,
towel
yeah.
that they had, and wasn't for me, right? I used it,
Okay.
and we were using like surgical Huctiles is what we were using for window cleaning
Oh,
because surgical Huctiles are essentially lint free, safe on glass, and they're super cheap, right? So and they're really
okay.
durable too. So like a blue surgical Huctile is kind of like the ideal towel for that. Well, after that, I had known about the rag company. I knew that they made microfiber, but it was like this perfect storm of like getting more and more involved because Dane, who was part of our local like car forum, would always post about the microfiber sales going on at the rag company and things like that. That
Ah.
because that was the only way to market because it was such a local company, right? And so they would
Oh,
jump on
yeah.
local forums, market the towels, and it was probably around 2013, 2014 was my first time actually driving down to the rag company and going down there and saying, hey, I just got a bottle of O&R. I want to pick up some other towels from you guys. So I started buying the Drive Me Rivers, like the very early Drive Me Rivers and the very early Eagle Edgeless and all those different towels. And that was actually when I really went down kind of the Optimum rabbit hole, right? Because basically I knew of O&R, I knew of Rag Company's towels, but then I started learning about the other products in the line, right? So that's where, things like MDR, things like Hyper Polish, things like Hyper Compound, all those things. And those were at like the very early stages of some of those products too. So
Okay,
metal
yeah.
polish and all of that, right? So this is like the old bottles. Some of them still look the same today. Some of them look quite a bit different, but I started using those and I really, really started liking use the Optimum products because my only other comparison was McGuire's or Chemical Guys, right? So between the
Right.
three, that's kind of what I had access to. And this was before the days of people really ordering a lot online, right? I mean, ordering chemicals for detailing online wasn't super common, right? If you wanted to go polish and wax your car, you try to find something local. Chemical Guys was kind of one of the only ones that was really prioritizing the, hey, we ship everything, we do this, we do this. And
Okay.
then,
Yeah.
of course, you had Autopia and you had Auto Geek, and you had all sorts of different, areas to where you could find product, right? Detailed Image was still, I think, or it was around then as well. But I remember looking at shipping costs for like Auto Geek and being like, oh my God, it's coming from Florida. This
Yeah.
is a lot of money, right? And so, yeah, it was around that time, again, kind of a perfect storm. I was working at bodybuilding.com. I was doing marketing there, but my therapy on the side was polishing, washing, cleaning cars, and I kind of kept getting more and more involved. So at that point in time, I actually started to detail more cars on the side, right? So now it was friends of friends, friends of other friends that I had no idea who they were, but they were just saying, hey, I know this guy, he'll detail your car. So I started kind of taking these side jobs on the weekends and started doing that more and more. And it was not fun stuff, right? Like I would have to like pack up my stuff and drive an hour and go detail
Yeah.
like 4 cars in a day. And it was like minivans, and some of them were
Mm-hmm.
trucks that were work trucks. But it was like the kind of stuff you got to cut your teeth on, just to kind of
Right.
learn, right, and make mistakes on.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I
Right.
did. And so I started doing that, and then it was at 20. I was at 2020, 2016. Was 26, and that's when I think it was 26 or was it 27? I don't even know. One of those years, I got laid off from my job. And so
Okay.
they had a massive layoff. Basically, there was a buyout, private equity, and they were trying to battle Amazon. Bodybuilding.com's logistics shipping department was trying to battle Amazon. It was a losing battle. We lost a ton of money, and so they had to lay off like 15% of the company in like one day. And unfortunately, I was
Wow.
part of that. But the funny part about it is that I got laid off on, I don't even know what it was. I think it was a Thursday or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But then on a Friday, the rag company had their grand opening at the new location, which is the current location right here. So now being laid off and having a job, I was like, well, probably going to go see my friends at the rag company and go check that out
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I had already been shopping with them quite often. I already kind of knew everybody. I had dropped off my motorcycle at Levi's shop for a couple detox that they had back in the day, and so I was kind of familiar with everybody. And there's little mini stories and all of that, but I mean, I'll kind of
Sure.
cliff notes it. But came here to the grand opening, and really they were like, hey man, we don't, I wasn't looking for a job, but they kind of told them what happened. They said, hey, we're really not in a position to hire somebody like you. And I said, that's totally fine. And after about a month and a half of being laid off, I was kind of starting to lose my mind. Like I was applying for jobs, so I was
Yeah.
kind of looking for the perfect job because, I had
Right.
gotten a severance package, so I was okay for a little while. But I really wanted to find like the job that I wanted. And when my family had asked me, when my friends had asked me, like, where would you work? Like, where would be your ideal job? I'm like, probably the rag company, but like they they're not in the position to hire somebody that was at that marketing level. And so um I don't know, I'd beaten Grand Theft Auto 5 like twice in a row, and I played pretty much
Yeah.
every single video game. And I had, like my laid off days were literally I would wake up, I'd probably go to the gym, I would play my drums in like my underwear for like an hour.
Yeah.
I'd play video games, I would eat lunch, you know, my girlfriend would come over, who's now my wife, and she would ask me like, "Hey, what are you gonna do with your life?" And I'm like, "I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, this is kind of fun." And go
Mm-hmm.
figure.
Yeah, this is great.
This is great. And I'm like, I could just do this because it was wintertime and I couldn't really detail, but I'm like, maybe I start detailing in the springtime. Maybe that's what I do. And
Right.
so I
Right.
was really trying to figure out like what my plan was. And then we had saw that Dane had posted on Facebook that they were hiring a part-time video editor.
Mm.
And I was like, you know what? I know how to edit some videos. Like I got a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
experience with that. I'm like, maybe I just do that. So I applied. I submitted a formal resume, my application.
Mm-hmm.
I had provided sample photography. I had provided sample
Nice.
videography. I treated it like it was a
Yeah.
professional job. I mean, there was
Yep.
like 8 people that worked here, including the packers and the owners, and I still
Wow.
treated it as like, hey, I really want to work
Yeah.
here. Here's my professional resume. And
Mm-hmm.
so um, they told me again, I was probably a little overqualified for the job, but I said, "Hey,
Wow.
I'm wanting to grow with you guys and
Right.
figure this out." Um, and kind of, it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to get in at the ground floor, but what I liked about it is that it was exciting to me because it wasn't so like corporate. And
Hmm.
we didn't have health insurance at the time. They had just gotten dental insurance. That was it. So you're on your own for
Mm-hmm.
health insurance. There was
Yeah.
no other benefits, and if I told you I was getting paid, you'd probably laugh. But I just did it because they had just hired Levi,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like,
Okay.
you know what? I'm like, let's just figure out how we can all do this together. So
Mm-hmm.
um, at that time, basically, I wasn't making a lot of money. Like I'll just throw it
Mm-hmm.
out. I mean, I wasn't making anything. Like I was basically making enough to kind of make my car payment per month, but like that's how
Yeah.
little I was making here,
You're
being
Right.
making
full
Peter
time.
Parker money.
Dude, yeah, pretty much. Like I think I probably could have gone to McDonald's and probably made a little bit more, but like
Yeah.
it wasn't really about the money, right? It was about
Right.
like I love the people, I loved the industry, and I wanted to get further into it. And the only way to do that would be by kind of getting through this, right? And so is Tug okay? He's bounced off.
I think he'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Sometimes he has someone
Um,
come in and he has to
no, you're totally
take
fine.
care of that, and he'll be right back.
Cool. So basically, what I ended up doing because I knew I wasn't making a lot of money, I said I'm going to do this rag company on my day, during the day, and in the evenings and on the weekends, I'm going all in on detailing as much as I could possibly detail. I'm
Okay.
going to detail
Right.
because now I had an employee discount. I had access to all of the Optimum
Right.
chemicals. I had access to all the towels, and I could really like be like, okay, how do we make this better? How do we continue to grow this? And the only way to do it is by getting hands on and then coming at it at the perspective of I work here for technically
Mm-hmm.
a distributor and a manufacturer, but if I'm doing this every single weekend and I'm like actively putting my experience in, I can figure out how to guide us with future things. And so, because
Cool.
Levi had 20 years of experience, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
had but real detail shop experience, right? Lacquer thinner is usually the
Yeah.
answer. Any towel can pretty much do the job if it's clean. Like
Yeah.
he had that experience, which was fantastic because he was a little bit more of a realist, whereas more of like kind of that hobbyist kind of perfectionist. So we really got to meet in
Right.
the middle with certain things, and
Okay.
um, that's when I started doing more weekend jobs, and I had actually gotten like I think like 3 different private collections that I started detailing for, and that was where I went from kind of the minivans, the work trucks, the friends of friends, sedans, like the little stuff,
Mm-hmm.
to jumping into several $100,000 worth of cars, right? I mean, in
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
car would be
Yeah.
worth $500,000, and so.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that, and I kept getting more of these high end cars because essentially what this guy was is he was a big fan of like the Mecum auctions and the Barrett Jackson stuff. So he was
Mm-hmm.
cycling through cars every single month. So he would have something new that would come in and that would come and go. And he was really particular, but I was like, okay, I'm pretty particular, so let's keep doing this. So I ended up doing that for almost a year, and I was doing it as often as I could of pretty much like this one guy's cars. And I ended up buying my wife's engagement ring with that money, right?
Cool.
So I was able
Mm-hmm.
to do that. I was able to make extra side money. And then that's where I don't know, I kind of continued doing it on the side as a passion, then started doing my own cars to that level and whatnot. And yeah, that's kind of where it all went. And then now, fast forward to today, almost what, 9 years later, essentially, yeah, 8 years later, it's yeah, it's snowballed. It's gotten crazy. It's
Yeah.
gotten super, super nuts. But I mean that's essentially how I kind of got into detailing. But I mean, again, I'm kind of a crazy person. I'm really particular. I don't want to say I'm like obsessive, but like I kind of am in the sense that, I like things to be perfect, but I know now as I get older, things can't be perfect. So you got to kind of find balance
Right.
there.
Right.
But yeah, throughout all that time, I mean, the rag company through the growth, I would say, I mean, we've gone from expanding to more chemical distribution to creating more towels to
Hmm.
I mean, marketing differently. I mean, back in the day, it was really guerrilla-like. I mean, we had to pretty much do whatever the heck we could to try to get the rag company name out there, and all that work I think has paid off today to where I think it's pretty well known. And
Yep.
yeah, so it's been a ride. Podcasts, videos, trips. I mean, countless trips, events, all that kind of stuff has pretty much brought us to where we're at today, which is cool.
So
Yeah.
how did your like job description evolve?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, again, started as a part-time video editor. That lasted probably like a good, like, I would say probably like a year. I wasn't part-time for a year. For what it's worth, I started part-time on a Monday. I was full-time on a Friday, right? That during that
Right.
same week, right? Because I think Jeff and Carolyn saw how much value I brought to, things I could do. And
Hmm.
but the thing was is I had the experience of just a completely different level of marketing than where we were at. And so we didn't even have the right tools to be able to do kind of what I had been used to. And so but I would say realistically, it was kind of the first year it was part-time video editor, then eventually, full-time video editor, photographer, um, social media. I took over the Instagram after about like a week or 2 weeks. Took over the Instagram, so then it was kind of social media. So for the first couple of years, it was primarily social media, marketing, um, product development, and I don't know, going on trips and then being in the videos. And then following that, the next couple of years were kind of a mix of everything, right? So a little bit of more social media, a little bit more market focused, a little bit more sales focused. So like, all of our beginning sale ideas that we had, all those different quirky, weird things, that usually came from, my head. And a lot of that and going on more trips. And then obviously COVID hit. And that's where we kind of had to really, hunker down and build
Hmm.
this amazing studio that we have today.
Hmm.
And once we built that, that's kind of when we went, all in on the social media stuff. But our normal marketing had started to kind of, I guess our sales marketing and stuff like that. We were prioritizing way more of what we were doing, here in the studio and here in the media center. So our podcasts, we really started diving in our podcasts and really doing that as much as we could. Um, but now, fast forward to today, now it's mostly, I would say, product development is probably my biggest thing. So producing products, coming up with that product ideas, just the general branding of the rag company and kind of where the brand's best represented, how it's going forward, and kind of where to align ourselves in the market, right? So I mean, when we think about, how to identify trends or how to identify you know shifts in the market, right? Like how do we either go with the flow or how do we drive, on a different flow? I mean, how do we navigate that? So a lot of that's kind of what I'll do on top of just ideas. I don't know. I'm kind of pretty good at with ideas, and so a lot of ideas that we come up with for sales ideas, packages, mystery boxes, a lot of that stuff will kind of come from me, and then while still being the videos. But I mean, right now I'm kind of letting a few other people jump into videos as well. So especially like Gabe, Sydney, I know like Carson's doing some stuff, Lucas Blaine, customer service. But I mean, eventually there will be a point where I will have to be a little bit less hands-on with the video stuff, a little bit more hands-on with where the business is going.
Yeah. Yeah, I have so many ways I want to try and ask this question, because what I love about your story is, I mean, from day one, you were like, "Hey, let's build it." Like, "Hey, you don't really have like a position for me. Let's build it." "Hey, we
Mm-hmm.
want to break out and do different things." I think just personally, I think the healthiest companies are the ones that um, create from a place of excitement and not from a place of and like in business, we always have, okay, how do we get revenue and stuff? But I think the healthiest businesses are like, hey, this is still fun for me. Hey, this
Yep.
is still, let's try and do something new because this should be fun. Who do you think kind of drives the detailing market? Does it really come back to the end goal of like whether we're installing, whether we're detailing, whether making products, selling products, distributing products? Um, there's so many different types of detailing clients and customers. Is there one general group that's kind of like leading the charge and causing us to, like, we're all trying to reach one high end market, the guys who have the Porsches and they have the Maseratis, that is that kind of the focus and everything trickles down, or do you think that something kind of needs to be created, something for everyone?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely not one market, or it's definitely not just one. I don't know. How do I say this? It's such like a snowballing effect of of how everything comes together. There's not like one avenue of being like, hey, this is where it starts, and this is where, this ricochets off of here, and this has this effect, and this. I mean, it's a real it's a culmination of so many different things that will drive it. But I mean, I would say that realistically, today in 2025, your end consumers, right? Your weekend warriors, those are the people who are going to have a lot of influence and a lot of power over just the general market, right? And the reason for that is because they have most of the buying power, right? And so any end user in their driveway, right? You think about how many people were like me at one time, right? Me, 12 years ago, 20 years ago, of doing the research and really starting to fall in love with detailing. There's so many new people that are falling in love with detailing their own cars, right, or protecting their investments, right, however you want to look at it. That it's more than ever, right? I mean, and that's probably a big reason for that is probably YouTube, social media, things like that, right? I mean, we all see the
Mm-hmm.
videos. It's really satisfying to see that, but I think a lot of the buying power, a lot of the money, a lot of kind of the general direction of where some companies are chasing money is going towards the consumer. But I think the validity, right, the validity behind those products and the reason and the techniques and all that is going to come from the people who know what the heck they're doing, right? And people who
Mm-hmm.
know what the heck they're doing are people that are doing this for a living, people that are doing this every single day. But the outlook is way different in some cases, right? Because, if you have somebody that's been detailing for 15, 20 years, right, the end goal is always going to be a clean car. That's the goal, right? How do you take this car
Right.
from being dirty and scratched up to being clean and shiny? That's it, right? It's not necessarily. I mean, there's other things that come with that, right? There's the relationships with customers. There's the doors that may open. There's the opportunities. There's the experiences. There's things like you detail for 15 years. Next thing you know, you go to a training class. You talk to this person, and now you're detailing something like Air Force One, right? Or now you are at the Quail, or now you are at Monterey Car Week, or whatever it is, and you're doing
Mm-hmm.
that for a full week. So things like that can open up to people who are doing this for a living. But like, I think that they are the people that are going to be validating a lot of this stuff, especially if they're coming from a pro stance, for people that are enthusiasts, right? Like, what are the pros using? What are the professionals using? Now, the hard part is that some of that's been really skewed, right, lately, especially on social media, because you can have Joe Schmo, who jumps on YouTube and comes in as a product expert, a detailing expert, right? And
Right.
comes in and
Mm-hmm.
says, I've been detailing for 20 years. And this is, these are the best new products, and these are the best new products, and these are the best new
Mm-hmm.
products. But like, have they really been detailing for 20 years, or did they wash a car once 20 years ago, and then when COVID
Right.
hit, did they really go all in, right? Did they
Yeah.
get bored during COVID, start watching a lot of videos? And
Yep.
there's no wrong to that, right? There's no wrong to that, but I think that what's happening is that you're getting a lot of weekend warriors who are self-proclaimed pros, and they're taking that and they're running with it. But I mean, the difference is I think that for certain people who are even wanting to dive into that, training is the number one thing, right? I mean, hands-on
Yeah.
experience and seat time is going to be the number one thing, right? And so in order for somebody to feel like they offer validity, or to feel like they're a pro and all that, what did you do to feel, what did you do to get you to feel like you were a pro, or to feel like you have enough experience to do this, right? Was it watching YouTube videos? Was it going to one training session at at a manufacturer's area? What was it that got you this accumulation of experience? And for some people, it is there, right? I mean, very few. I can probably count 5 people off the top of my head who were at maybe an enthusiast level, who are now, I would say 100%, this person is capable of detailing and polishing any vehicle and perfecting this vehicle with no question. Like literally, I probably count 5 people, right? And the reason for that is that I know that these people, whether they were pros, enthusiasts, whatever it is, have gone through the motions of getting trained, right? They have gone to the Rupa's headquarters for a complete sanding course, right? They've met with the guys from KXK. They've spent a weekend with Andy Kilmer. They've learned how to sand. They've spent a weekend with Noxie. They've gone to, I don't know, the PNS Training Academy, this, and this. But on top of that, they've had so much seat time, and they've made mistakes enough, right, to where they have that experience, and they've gained that, right? I guarantee you that a lot of these guys out there nowadays probably haven't burned through clear coat, right? A lot of these guys, they have you have kind of it made with the products nowadays, to where you aren't going to make some of those mistakes, right? And the thing is, they'll never be humbled by burning through clear, or messing up a project, or hitting a backing plate on something that they, if they don't have those humbling experiences, they're going to think they're pros for sure all day long, right? They're going to be like, I'm the best detailer ever, right? I'm like, well, just wait, like, it'll happen to you, but you've only detailed 4 cars in your life, so like, give it more time, right? And so, but I think that there is those people, though, weirdly enough, as a weird full circle, the consumers, the YouTube detailers, all of that are driving a lot of where this, the market's going. And that's mainly just because the amount of influence, and the amount of eyes, and the amount of people are seeing this stuff, right? But I think the validation is always going to come from pro detailers that, have their feet on the ground, that are actually detailing daily, who are really going to be able to stress test certain things and understand, what makes a chemical different than the other, or better than the other. Because you do it so often, you're going to start finding you're going to start finding weak spots. You're going to start finding, reasons why this towel may fail, or this chemical is not lasting as long as it's claimed to be, and all sorts of different stuff. So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a big snowball effect of where the industry has been and is today. There's not one particular thing, but I would say it's I don't know. Influence is probably a big part of it. Does that help? Is that, or did I just not answer the question at all?
100%.
I don't
No,
know if I
that's
just didn't
great.
answer the question. I have no idea.
The follow-up I have with that is, the longer you detail, the easier it is to get into the weeds and use the verbiage of a detailer, and it's easier to remove yourself from the consumer, the person who needs the detailing service. So my question is, like, what percentage of your social media influence should be training and teaching? How much do you have to educate a customer into a service or a product before? Because I don't know, but like, sometimes I'll watch videos. I'm sure you guys have experienced this, and you just like feel bad afterwards. You're like they just hammer on so many like levels of education and things. You're like, oh gosh, like, that person's way smarter than me. And that, I think if that's the end goal of the video, it's not really like, who's that helping? It makes you maybe look smart to other detailers, but how much of education of the products or the service, whether that's a protection package that you're selling, to why your interior detailing prices or exterior detailing prices is the way that it is, how involved it is, how much of a percentage of your videos should be in the education as opposed to like value or all the other things that we're trying to do as we're influencing on social media.
Gotcha. So I think, so if you are marketing to a customer, right? If I'm trying to market to somebody that I want to purchase, I want someone to purchase a detail from me how did I say that? I want somebody to use me for their detailing services, right?
Right.
If I'm trying to market to them, what the biggest thing there is that so many detailers on social media that are looking for business unfortunately end up marketing towards other detailers, right? They're trying to essentially you're trying to look pretty to other detailers, right? And so you're trying to
for what reason?
You're trying to glamify or whatever it is, the word I'm looking for, like detailing to like other detailers, and other detailers are going to be like, yeah, bro, you were foaming so slow, in that video that it looks like beautiful, or like, okay, so I understand that there needs to be a certain aesthetic, or there needs to be a certain, maybe visual representation that you're trying to portray to an average everyday person who's looking for a detail service. But what ends up happening is you have detailers who really are just trying to look cool for other detailers. And if you look at the comments, right, and these people's posts, it's usually other detailers, right? It's not I could I would be shocked if I went through 95% of detailing videos on Instagram and saw somebody that would say, hey, I'm local to you, I would like to purchase this package, or I'm local to you and I would like this service done.
Right.
Absolutely not. It is literally just other detailers making fire emojis in the comments, and I'm just like, what ends up happening is there's detailers that need the help of other detailers, right? Whether they are local or they are on the other side of the world, to essentially help grow their page, right? Because basically, in order to have validity to your page, right, is a customer going to see somebody with 50 followers or 100 followers? Which one are they going to feel more comfortable with, right? Well, just the basic deduction, they're going to be like, hey, he has 100 followers. That seems like he's got 100 people that are interested in their services. Then I'm probably going to go with them over the person with 50. So what ends up happening is you get these detailers that kind of get in this big, circle thing, and they all want to essentially help grow each other to help add validity to their business. Well, by doing that, they all see each other's videos. They go, oh man, I want to make a cool video like that detail guy. And now again, they are just essentially marketing to other detailers, are they just trying to get views, right? That's another big thing too, right? If you're just trying to get views, you're just trying to get views. If you're just trying to be a social media detailer, be a social media detailer, right? That's just do that, right? But I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I see in everyday detailers that are looking to market to their local audience to get more business is oftentimes, again, making something look too vague, or taking the same photo every single time, showing the same angle of the car every single time, or something like that. Really what it needs to be is, I mean, a really basic thing of just, hey, who are you? Why are you doing this? How long have you been doing this, right? And why you should trust me to clean your car, right? Here's some cars I've cleaned. Here's some things that I do. I use. You don't need to go into the details of what products you're using. That's the last. I mean, like if a customer asks about what products you're using, totally, right? There's going to be somebody that watches a video on Opti-Coat, and they might reach out to you and say, hey, do you install Optimum Products, right? Or do you install Opti-Coat, right? If you do, cool. Yeah, I install Opti-Coat products. Sweet. That's pretty much a done deal there. Same way it would be with Expel, Tint, or PPF, or whatever, whatever else is out there, right? If you're an Avery Dennison wrap installer, same thing. If they are looking for that service, they will reach out, they will ask you, you will confirm, that will happen, right? But if you're detailing and you have 30 different detailing products, you don't need to tell people what you're cleaning their wheels
Right.
with and why it's pH balance and why it's not going to harm the wheels or whatever it is, because
Yeah.
truthfully, I don't really care. Are the wheels
Right.
clean? Is their paint protected? They care about how
Mm-hmm.
long is it protected for,
Yeah.
probably, right? What they shouldn't do,
Right.
don't go through a car wash. Don't use a shop towel on your paint, right? They care
Mm-hmm.
about that kind of stuff, but ultimately, you need to figure out a way to, again, if you're trying to market to um, a local end consumer that you're trying to have them buy your services, you need to try not to be too much of an Instagram detailer, right? I mean, unless you're trying to get views, just know you're
Right.
probably not going to get business if you're trying to get views.
Right.
Not overcomplicate things. Don't like mansplain every single chemical that you're using and why you're using it, because that's not really that important, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it at a high level, right? I am an
Yeah.
Optimum installer. Most of the products not all of them, most of the products I use,
Right.
I am using Optimum. Cool, right?
Yeah.
I also offer this and this and this, right? You do that at a high level, it makes sense. But other than that, though, I tell people that, you still want to take good photos. You still want to take good videos. I don't think reels are a bad thing. But I think that there's a way to do it to where you can still focus on a local audience, try to get business, try to get that reshared locally. Now, again, not on a worldly scale, but a locally, and see what that can do. I mean, for what it's worth, right? If you take the Rad Company Instagram or the Rad Company social media pages, right? We have 168,000 followers on Instagram. We have 107,000 followers on YouTube, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a decent amount of people.
Yeah.
We do not get asked that often if we offer detailing services. We do every once in a while through customer service, or
Okay.
maybe somebody might ask a question on like social media or
Mm-hmm.
on like through a DM or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like that's not, because again, we are trying to market to end users, and we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
get views, truthfully, because
Yeah.
that's why we're trying to grow our
Nationally.
business.
Mm-hmm.
But locally, I think Lucas told me we get in customer service, we might get a call every other week or something like that. Like, hey, do you guys do detailing there? Or I saw your guys' video. Can you guys detail on the
Mm-hmm.
side or whatever it is?
Right.
And what's kind of cool about those jobs is sometimes we do take them, right? We say, hey, actually, we do detail on the side. I'll take that job. But,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
we make it very clear that we're not a detailing service, but it doesn't get asked that
Right.
often because, again, we are
Right.
not marketing towards a local audience for detailing services. We're marketing on a worldly scale. So what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is don't watch what the Rad company is doing or what other social media influencers are
Mm-hmm.
doing in the detailing space to try to market
Yep.
your business.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Tug.
That's a
What do you think?
long-winded way of saying that. Yeah.
No, it's great, man. And
That's so helpful.
YouTube is a national platform. It
Yeah.
doesn't really work locally. I put out YouTube videos. All 32 of my followers might watch it. Some of them are my customers. I'm hoping my customers subscribe. Other than that, the only reason I use YouTube is to, like this van. I'm just going to make a 1 minute thanks. Thanks Deb for your business. Stop going through the automatic car wash because this paint is it is wrecked.
Yeah.
It absolutely wrecked. And I called her up and I said, listen, I'm hoping you don't want me to fix this paint. Leave it alone. And I knew she was going to say no. Let's just detail it and put a good wax on it. But that's what I use YouTube for. I send her that
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to grow. I don't want to make money off of YouTube. That's just an easy upload. Otherwise, I have to pay for it. By going to
Hmm.
like You're Able, I have to pay for that. I have to go to the enterprise, spend another $100 a month. I just use YouTube. It's so much easier. I was going to say, Anthony, Levi was talking about ONR being the only rinseless you guys were, and I forget exactly. I think it was when Dr. G was unavailable for those couple of years, and that's when you guys started looking at other rinselesses. Otherwise, I think he said it would have been. I might not be remembering correctly. Can you just talk about ONR and kind of your kind of thoughts on it and how
Yeah.
it came to be on TRC?
Yeah. So ONR was, a foundational chemical, right, in the TRC lineup,
Mm-hmm.
right, and that was because we found that again it it worked so well with our towels, right? No matter what, our ONR at any
Yeah.
dilution, whether it's your
Mm-hmm.
standard 256 to 1, 128 to 1, like
Hmm.
no matter what dilution you would have it at 64 to 1, like there's always something
Yeah.
good paired with our towels. And
Yep.
so O&R really, I mean, it was our bread and butter. I mean, again, I had started
Hmm.
using it before I started working at the rag company. I had already been using
Hmm.
O&R. I had already been kind of like
Yep.
trusting it and trusting the
Yeah.
process and seeing the results.
Right.
And coming onto the rag company, it was really like we all kind of knew that this stuff was goated. Everybody knew O&R was the king. It was on top.
Right.
Well,
Right.
there
Right.
was the couple years following the start of selling Optimum Chemicals where Dr. G I think had to step away for a little bit on the full business spectrum of things to focus on other
Hmm.
things that he had to
Yeah.
prioritize. Well,
Yep.
it was around that time where yeah, probably a little after that time, maybe. I can't remember the exact time frame, but I mean, that's where rinseless washing, right? Just in general, there had been a lot of other
Hmm.
players that had come and gone, right?
Yeah.
We had seen a few brands,
Hmm.
ones that start
Yeah.
with a U. There's all sorts of different ones that had come, had come out of the woodwork, and then people started making videos
Yeah.
on that, and people started saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is the best rinseless wash," or "No, this is the best rinseless wash."
Hmm.
And that's kind of where that first entry into like, hey, might be some other contenders out here. Well, we
Hmm.
tried them. Truthfully, I mean, we ordered them, we tried them,
Yeah.
and we threw them in the trash because we were like, hey, these are
Right.
garbage, right? Like this
Yeah.
is essentially a quick detailer that we're diluting with water. That's exactly what it was,
Mm.
right?
Wow.
Chemically it was an inferior. A lot of these products were inferior, and
Yeah.
then that's when you started getting into more of the surfactant based
Hmm.
detergent based rinseless washes that started coming out, and people started saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is the best ever because it doesn't leave polymers behind. Okay, well, you're pretty much just leaving soap water on the surface, and there's all
Hmm.
sorts of different takeaways
Yep.
from some of the rinseless that had come and gone, but like it
Yeah.
was I think our relationship with PNS started getting closer, and we had started helping them develop
Hmm.
a lot more chemicals. And
Right.
they had asked us, hey, should we get into this rinseless wash game? We said, hey, we would like to see you try, right?
Yeah.
And please try to do something different. And so they created something,
Hmm.
and truth be told, it is way different.
Yeah.
And viscosity is different, it looks different, it feels a little bit different.
Hmm.
So that was kind
Yeah.
of a unique thing. And then following that, it was kind of once PNS had opened that door, I felt like a
Hmm.
lot of doors opened up. I felt like everybody was like, whoa, if
Yeah.
the rag company's promoting rinseless washing and there's these new contenders
Right.
coming to the game, might as well throw our hat in and see what happens. Now,
Yeah.
with that said, I think that there are several good rinselesses out there. I think that there
Hmm.
are, I think by this amount of time, enough people have reverse engineered a lot of different
Yeah.
rinselesses and found certain properties of
Right.
certain ones and
Right.
and played to the strengths of others, and they've been able to do
Hmm.
that. Now,
Yeah.
it would only be a problem if Dr. G never came back with some bangers, right? Him coming back
Right.
and raising the bar each time, right? And so
Hmm.
now the newest version out, right, of O&R. I mean, this is, in my opinion, the
Hmm.
best version of O&R that we've ever had,
Yeah.
and I think it's amazing. Now, if he would
Yeah.
have, slept on, if he would have not touched it right after V1 or V2 and just left it,
Hmm.
V3 and just left it, then
Right.
yeah, then maybe there would be some really really good competition. And so
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
because of what Dr. G's been able to do, he's been able to continue to make it one of the best, if not the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just,
Does that
it's
make sense?
amazing
Yeah.
to, it does. It's just amazing to me. And I think from what you said, if V1, V2, or V3, if we would have stopped at those, the fact that it could continue to be made better until V6 is maxed out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, obviously that's a chemist. That's somebody that's just going in the lab, as opposed to, and I do agree. I'm sure there's some other good rinselesses out there. I've never used any other ones. Um, but we don't see that happening. You don't see, it's kind of a man. Hopefully he doesn't hear me say it or watch this podcast. You don't see that mad scientist in his lab. You know what I mean? Kind of tweaking the. And I'm sure I know all the other ones have other versions too, but I just can't imagine any of them are going to be able to kind of step it up and
Not.
increase to
I
the
don't. I
level
don't
that
think.
ONR has.
Yeah. I don't think to the level, and
Yeah.
it could be due to. Think of the just the facts here. Look what kind of facility Dr. G has available to him. right? You know what I mean? Look what kind of experience that he has, right? I mean,
Right.
we're talking, what was he, 40 years? 40 years of chemistry, or I mean, of everything from the clear coat days to where we are now. More
Yeah.
than that, I
Right.
mean,
Right.
he's been
I
doing
think
this
it's
for
50.
so long. He
Yeah.
has so much. Again, back to the seat time. He has so much seat time
hmm
in chemical creation and
Yeah.
in understanding clear coat and
hmm
understanding things at such a deeper level that you have chemists that have been doing this for 2 years. You have chemists
Right.
that have been doing this for a year,
Right.
and they're
Right.
coming in and they're creating detailing chemicals because
Right.
they think that it's the easiest thing to create, or they think that if
Yeah.
hey, if this person can do it, I can do it. I mean, trust me,
Yeah.
I have met probably four, I don't know, probably three or four, like I call them, I don't know, garage chemists, right? I mean, it's
Hmm.
truthfully kind of what they are. I mean, dudes just that were
Yeah.
kind of playing around with chemicals in the garage.
Right.
And again, their confidence is like, I can create this because, I've
hmm
created this and I've created this. And, again, it was funny because like Matt Mormon of Obsessed Garage, he had a podcast the other day where he was talking about
hmm
chemical creation and the experience of chemists and things like that. And essentially what you'll have is you'll have one chemist in a full line of product that might catch lightning in a bottle once, right, and might get
hmm
one decent product usually.
Yeah.
Very rarely will you see a single chemist be able to create more than one
Right.
amazing product, right?
Right.
Right.
It
Right.
just it's just not super common, right? And so
Yeah.
for Dr. G, though, I mean, you look at the line. I mean, gosh, there's off the top of your head, you got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably products that are some of the best in
hmm
class in terms of what you
Yep.
can get. But other lines might have one product, maybe two,
hmm
maybe three
Yeah.
standout products,
Right.
and everybody's different, right? But again, it comes down to
hmm
the experience, what
Yeah.
kind of facility they have available to them, and
hmm
really. And again, this is Dr. G's company. This is his line. He is going to put the
hmm
effort into this. A blender may not put the same amount of effort into
Right.
individual products that Dr.
Right.
G would, because a blender, that chemist for the blender, he's got no skin in the game. That
Right.
blender, that chemist
Right.
working for that blender, he does not own
hmm
that company, right? He is
Right.
not making more money. He is not motivated to create something
Right.
better because he's not making any more money. Now I know we're
Yeah.
getting into
hmm
like the nitty gritty parts of this, but like
Yeah.
Dr. G has everything to benefit from putting more time
Yeah.
and effort into his company to
Yep.
make his chemicals better.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man. Well, thank you so much for your time. We were wondering if you just had any closing thoughts on two things. One, just like what are you excited about? What's coming next in for detailing? For car care, for this industry that we love. What are you excited for that's coming up? And then also, can you share a little bit about what we can anticipate and expect for middle of July? We have Optimum Week coming up with the
Yep.
right company.
Yep. Let's see. So things I'm excited for. Well, I'm excited for a lot of things. I can't say all of them, but a lot of the
hmm
things are what we're doing here at the Rag Company. And so I'm mostly excited for that, right? Because it's things that I
Yeah.
get to do for fun. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. As far as the industry goes, I'm really hoping that there is eventually. I don't. How do I say this? I'm hoping that there is eventually a spot where the I don't want to say the hype, but I want to say I'm hoping for it to kind of steady out, right? I want the
Yeah.
detailing industry to continue to grow. I want detailers to have better access to chemicals, or to have better
hmm
access to the best chemicals. I want more knowledge out there. I want people to know why certain car washes are scratching their cars. I want people to know more about
Yeah.
microfiber. I want to know. There's all
Yep.
sorts of boxes that I want checked, but I think
hmm
ultimately I'm wanting to kind of get through this weird heavily influenced social media stage right now. Because I think there's a lot. I think there's just a lot of like weird misdirection going on, just in general
hmm
in the industry.
Interesting.
And I think that you can go any direction you want to go. I mean, people can make their own decisions, but I think that
Right.
there's just a lot. There's a lot of weird,
Yeah.
stuff going on at a higher level
Yeah.
that I'm hoping kind of gets sorted out. And essentially what I'm trying to say is I want the people who care about the industry and who care about improving things and making everything just
Yeah.
better, right, in every
Yeah.
single way. I want those
Right.
people to stick around, but I want the people that are in here to make a quick buck to to get out of here, if that makes
Right.
sense, right?
Yep,
And I don't
it
know how to
does.
say that any other way.
No, you said it
There's
fine. Yeah, I
there's
got it.
I think you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I don't have to say it, right?
Yep.
I think you just kind of
No,
get it. So
we got it.
this is because this isn't meant to make a quick buck, right? This is people's
Right.
lives, right? This is
Yeah.
our jobs. This is what
Yeah.
we are trying to survive and live off of this and retire off this eventually, right? But for these people that hype everything up and try to make their quick money and then bounce,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, so how
Yeah.
does that benefit anybody other than yourself,
Yep.
right? And I know we're all in it to to help support ourselves, but as an
Yeah.
industry as a whole, I think we can also support each other. So
Yeah.
with that said, I'm hoping that kind of phases out a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I am
Yeah.
excited for better. I mean, here's the thing: with microfiber and chemicals, I think we haven't reached that ceiling yet. I think that ceiling is still very, very high up. But what I think it's going to be is probably from here on, it might be a slow rise to that ceiling, right? I mean,
Right.
it's still a slow rise. I think there's a lot of room there to grow, but I think at a technology level, I think we're kind of at this point where, hey, we can make small changes to certain things for a few years until that next big jump in technology, and then that's when we'll see the difference. Now, the hope
Yeah.
is that we get to that next big jump in technology where we as humans are still doing things ourselves. Because the only thing I worry about is, again, with robots
Yeah.
and AI
Yeah.
and things like that,
Yeah.
eventually it could get to a point where we're not doing things ourselves, and that next big jump isn't necessarily a chemical or a textile or a tool, but literally more
Yeah.
so the fact that you're not doing it yourself. And so
Right.
that's the one fear I have. Hopefully it doesn't get to that
Yeah.
point, at least not
Right.
for a very long time.
Mhm.
But yeah, other than that, though, the Optimum Brand Week, I'm looking forward to that because really what that is going to be highlighting Optimum, highlighting Opti-Coat, bringing in, I think Jason's coming out for that. And so bringing him into here and basically doing media, doing some video, doing some education, doing some things that I think, again, benefit the brand, right? We are
Yeah.
we are not the type of people here at the Rag Company to bring on 100 brands and not offer value to them individually. We
Yeah.
need to offer value to every single brand partner that we have, and we need to support them as equally as possible because, again, it's a relationship. It's a long-term thing. We are in it for the long
Yeah.
term.
Right.
We're not here to make a quick
Yep.
buck. We are wanting to
Right.
stick around, and so because of that, a brand week is like the least we can do. I mean, ideally, I'd love to have a brand a month if that was possible,
Yeah.
but again, there's
Right.
other sales throughout the years and things like that we have to keep
Yeah.
up on. So
Right.
what we're expecting to see is a Q&A for sure. You're going to expecting to see some maybe possible live videos on Amazon. You're going to
Yeah.
expect to see some more videos shot here in the studio with Jason based around Optimum. And beforehand too, we're going to be launching mostly videos, things related to Opti-Coat products and Optimum products. So such as
Yeah.
Hypershine and things like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right. Well,
Very
we know that
exciting
you got
stuff.
a busy rest of a day ahead of you still, so we appreciate you carving out some
Yeah.
time to talk with us.
No problem.
And
Absolutely.
looking forward to the week coming up. Thanks for all the little golden nuggets that you dropped that we can
Yeah.
dissect for a little while. And thanks for influencing the community in such a positive way and inspiring us to continue to be our best selves in the detailing world.
Sweet. Thank you guys. You guys are doing great, man. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anthony. It's been an
Awesome.
honor.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Yep.
See ya.